Moment. Welcome to the session, Atma Namaste. We are continuing our study of the book Beyond the Mind. So, if you remember, in the last session, we stopped at page 10. We had just done the first sutra on this page. Now, there is a new section beginning. Let's read beyond that. The mission of your life, of your soul, is to grow up. Just a moment, please. Now, this is a wonderful sutra. I mean, this one sutra, if you really think about it, it gives you the purpose of life completely. Who are we and why are we born? If we are clear about that, life will never be confusing or problematic. Why, the world is a mess these days is because people are living life without purpose or with false purposes. False purposes means that if you don't know your real purpose, then you pick something up and you think, oh, this must be the purpose of my life. For example, to make money. For example, I mean, can making money be the real purpose of your life? Because in the end, when the body dies, all this money will get left behind. Is the purpose of life to become famous? Because again, when you leave the body, well, maybe some people will remember you, but you will not know that they remember you. So this is something to meditate on. This is something maybe to make a poster of and put it on the wall in front of you where you see it every day. The mission of our life, of our soul, is to grow up. Now, what does it mean to grow up? You see, let me give you more examples because this is what I see every day in the world. And I try to explain to people that you must realize your purpose and live your life according to the purpose. Then you will see that there is no confusion. It's like you go to a railway station or a bus station. Buses are going off all the time in different directions. But you have gone there, you want to sit in a bus, but you don't know where you want to go. So what are you going to do? Either you will sit in no bus, you will just waste time, or you will find a bus and just go and sit in it. Now, on what basis will you decide or will you choose the bus? How will you decide? How will you choose a bus? Either you will say, oh, all my friends are going in this bus, let me also go in this bus. Or you will say, oh, this bus looks nice, see how beautifully it is painted. Or you will go inside, you will check the buses, you'll say, this one looks most comfortable. Let me go and sit in this. But is it taking you where you need to go? Are you understanding? So, similarly, in our lives, there is a term called avidya. Avidya means ignorance or lack of true knowledge. The biggest two avidyas are number one, who am I? And number two, what is the purpose of my life? Now, here, of course, Master has been telling us in the previous sutras who we are. Who are we? The soul, not the bodies. Now he's saying, why has the soul taken the body? Why have you, the soul, taken birth? Why are you in life? So he's saying the mission of your life, of your soul, is to grow up. Now, when we say grow up, it means evolve, to mature, to progress. And when we are saying the soul has to grow up, or the soul has to evolve, or the soul has to mature, another word that we can use is spiritual progress or spiritual development. Correct? All right, let's move on. I hope you understand the importance of this sutra. Like a lotus flower growing out of the water and mud, the Jivatma or incarnated soul is like a flower reaching towards the sun, towards the higher soul. So this is the lotus flower is a very popular symbol in most spiritual traditions, especially in the in the Eastern, Southeastern Asia and Eastern Asia traditions. Because here maybe lotus flower is more abundant. I don't know why it is more so, but in Buddhism, I think in Jainism, in Hinduism, all this is a very very popular symbol, and it is used to, like Master is saying, it gives us an aspiration. You look at the lotus, and it is supposed to tell you that जो संसार की जो कीचड़ है, the water, the mud, and all that, you have to live within that, but come out of that. You have to transcend that. You have to go beyond it. This entire world, all our emotional baggages, all our weaknesses, character weaknesses, so on. It is possible for us to rise above them, to go beyond them, to transcend them. And that is what we call spiritual progress. When we said your soul should grow up, that is what it meant. It should not just wallow in the water and the mud, but it should emerge out of that, and it should seek the sun. Now, the sun, when it says reaching towards the sun here symbolizes the higher soul. So the purpose really, I mean, like the goal, purpose is to grow, but then there have to be some goals. So one goal is to achieve union with the higher soul. So the consciousness of the incarnated soul has to keep rising until it unites with the higher soul. So then, even when you are in body, you are living your normal life, but it is with your consciousness at a much, much, much higher level, the level of the higher soul. And then after that, it still continues, because then there is the divine spark, or what we call God realization. Okay, I think Master will talk about that also later. I hope this sutra is understood. Otherwise, you can put a message in the chat box. The person, the soul, is the inverted tree with a spiritual root upward, rooted to the higher soul and ultimately rooted to God. Now, this is again in some spiritual schools, this inverted, how should I say, this inverted tree metaphor is used quite often. So, in Master has actually one of the books that he has written, The Spiritual Essence of Man. Yeah. In that, he is talked about this. Let me just share the cover of that book. I don't know if you have come across this book, but this is a very interesting, a very informative book, and a very, how should I say, very profound book. The teachings here again are very, but they are explained in a lot of detail. Here, Master has, used this spiritual school to explain the entire spiritual structure, the metaphysics of our soul, our bodies, and so on. Very interesting book and very powerful book. And even as a healer, you will get many clues and many tips from this book. And just as a person, living your life, you want to have a better life. Just reading this book, you will find a lot many tips that will help you in your mundane life also. And let me this diagram. Can you see this diagram? This is from Master's book, uh, Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul. So here again, Master has explained in a different way. There is the physical body, the 12th chakra, the incarnated soul, then the higher soul, then the divine spark, and of course, then there is Supreme God. Now, this may be shown as, higher and higher, but really everything is in the same space. It's not like, it is somewhere in the sky or something like that. Nothing like that. So it is not supposed to depict physical location, but the fact that it is higher level of consciousness, more purity, more refinement, more subtlety, more refined vibrations or energy. Yes. Okay. Let's move forward. The quality of the development of the soul is reflected in the vehicle, or I would say vehicles. I would actually, vehicles. So you can think of all the bodies together as one body, or you can look at each body separately. So the physical body, this and that. So again, let's refer to a diagram, because it is said that a, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So I'll just this is from the Advanced Pranic Healing book. I hope you remember this. Master talks about the golden body of the yogi. Now, what are we supposed to understand from the golden body? The particles of even the physical body and the etheric body are mostly golden energy, divine energy. Very, very highly refined, highly evolved energy. So, what we are understanding here is that as the soul develops, the quality of that development will also be reflected in the bodies or in the vehicles. So the physical body will be different. Of course, the emotional and mental bodies, because in them you can see when the person speaks and behaves and talks, you will see the difference. Correct. But in even in the physical body, the particles change. And my suggestion is to read some of the theosophy books where this is explained in a lot more detail. All right. Okay, let's move on. We are moving to a new section. Think of the soul as being fluidic and radiatory in nature. Let's read this entire section. Because here now, Master is describing the soul. And you see, again, you have to understand, Master is not giving a theoretical description. This is how Master has perceived. This is how he has observed. आप समझ रहे हैं, मतलब ये कोई थ्योरेटिकल डिस्कशन नहीं है, ये उनका एक्चुअल ऑब्जर्वेशन है. मे बी वी आर नॉट इन अ पोजिशन राइट नाउ टू वैलिडेट दैट, but do think about it, and sometime in your as you progress on the spiritual path, you will have experiences in your meditations and otherwise, and there you will be able to come across these. आपको खुद अनुभव होगा ये. Then you can relate. And yes, this is what Master was talking about. Yeah. Okay. So think of the soul as being fluidic and radiatory. So fluidic, you understand, it flows. It's like, like a liquid. Fluidic को अपन liquid भी मान सकते हैं. But the word fluid actually includes gases also. Are you understanding? So it's not solid. Soul जो है, the soul, don't think of it as something solid. It is like, it's basically energy. So it's like gas or water. I mean, it flows, it doesn't. And it is radiatory, you understand, it radiates. Like in a dark room, you just strike a match. So the light from the match, as it burns, it will radiate outwards. Or if you have like a radio station, so a radio station ka, it will radiate the signal from the railway station, radio station, from the TV tower, or even your cell phone towers. It radiates. Similarly, the cell radiates. The soul radiates. The soul is basically light traveling at high speed in all directions. So, when you talk about radiation, there is very high speed traveling of the signal in all directions. The soul is energy with consciousness. Do not think of the soul as being only in one place at a time. You see, many times what happens is, because in images and so on, just abhi you remember we saw that image from Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul. The soul was shown as a small ball, right? You remember, above the head. So we tend to think of the soul as a dot or as a small ball. But now Master is clarifying, do not think of the soul as being only in one place at a time. The soul is everywhere. Like light, it can be here and there at the same time. Your soul is inside and outside of your body at the same time. So again, as we look at the, I mean, one thing we can talk about here is how this correlates with the way the Bhagavad Gita, explains or talks about the soul. So in chapter 2, shlokas 23 and 24, which I have tried to show you here, I don't know if you can read it clearly. There is a description of the soul. Again, if you look at how Master observed the soul and how the Bhagavad Gita described the soul, you will see that they are talking about the same entity but in different terms. Because everything that Master is talking about, these are the properties. Because if it is fluidic and radiatory, weapons cannot shed. If you have a bowl of light, can you cut it with a weapon? Can you burn it with fire? Can you wet it with water? And so on and so forth. Are you understanding? To me, this is this was like there is that simile of the light bulb going on in your brain. When I had read the Gita much before and so on, and I could really relate to the teachings. And then when I went through pranic healing and the soul class and so on, and then it made sense to me that, oh yes, that is what the Gita is talking about. Once you understand the soul as energy, then you can understand all these properties. Otherwise, it's a little mystical, it's a little mystifying. आपको समझ नहीं आता कि जब ये कह रहे हैं कि ये शस्त्र से कट नहीं सकता और अग्नि से जलाया नहीं जा सकता और पानी इसको गला नहीं सकता, तो क्या मतलब क्या है? व्हाट आर वी टॉकिंग अबाउट? यस. एंड जस्ट टू remind you, I think we saw this diagram the last time also. So when Master says that the soul is everywhere, like light, it can be here and there at the same time. So this is the soul aura. Everything inside it is also in the soul aura. Now, for example, you look at this spot here. Can you see where my cursor is? I don't know if you can see that. Just take a point on the left extreme of the soul aura and look at another point on the right extreme. Look at another point on the top extreme, another point on the bottom extreme. What do you see? The soul consciousness, the soul energy is present in all those four places at the same time, at exactly the same time. Yes. And it's like, how should I explain? Okay, so there is a satellite which is beaming down TV signals. You get TV coverage in your own house, your TV reception in your own house. So that one satellite, the signal is in a big area. And whether it is Delhi or Jaipur or Chennai or Pune or Mumbai or anywhere else, the same signal of the same satellite is everywhere at the same time. So that is how you can interpret this. Like light, it can be. So think of a light bulb. Like you are in a dark room, and now you have lit a light bulb in the center of the room. So let's say it's a very large room. So you will see that there is like a globe of light that is formed. Now the same light is present in every part of the globe at the same time. Yeah. So that is what we are talking about. There's another interesting thing. I keep coming back to my favorite book, The Existence of God is Self-Evident. There, if you, or maybe if you don't have the book right now, just make a note of it and study it yourself. Chapter 4, Sutra 14 and 15. So, Master talks about, light and the soul energy and, things like that. So do take a look at that and see how it correlates with what Master is talking about over here. Actually, Sutra 13, Sutra 13, Sutra 12. This entire thing is beautiful, and that is where you will see all this being talked about. You see, another term that is used here is consciousness. The soul is energy with consciousness. What do we mean by consciousness? Yeah. So, I mean, there may be very technical definitions. I'll tell you how I usually explain this, and you can see if it makes sense to you. You see, number one, it is the ability to be aware of yourself. You know, the entity that has consciousness has awareness of its own self. Secondly, it has the awareness of the environment. उसके जो माहौल है, जो उसके आसपास है, उसके उसकी भी उसको थोड़ी आभास है. And the third thing is that it is able to some extent at least, adjust itself to the environment, and maybe it even tries to adjust the environment to itself. Just think about it like that. Yeah. So now, when we look back at these sutras, what we understand is the soul is pure energy. Now, when Master says energy here, what he means is that it is pure energy. Pure energy meaning there is no matter, zero matter. You see, for example, I have a light source and there is light falling on me. This light is not pure energy. So physical light, anything in our physical existence is not pure energy, nor is it pure matter. This again you will get from existence of God is self-evident. It is all energy and matter in some mixture or the other. So for example, when we talk about a steel glass, there is more matter, more dense matter, and less consciousness, less energy with consciousness. But when we talk about a thought form, it is more consciousness. Again, there is matter, but the matter is less, or it is more subtle matter. Now, this will be a very long discussion, but you need to think about this, and that is why I would recommend that you also please read this book, The Existence. Maybe we will do a book study on this after some time. So, soul is pure energy, which means no matter, no material. Okay, and it has consciousness. It comes from God. It is pure but not perfect. How do we know this? Because if you turn one page, on page 9, Sutra number 3, that is what Master says. The soul, I'm sorry, Sutra number 4, the higher soul is pure but not perfect. Then it has the desire to grow up. It needs to evolve. It wants to evolve. That's what we discuss as the first thing today. The mission of your life, of your soul, is to grow up. So it wants to evolve. Correct? Okay, let's do one more sutra. Integrity or wholeness is based on connectedness with the higher soul. By the way, we are doing very profound and very high level teachings. These are teachings that even in, very popular spiritual schools, you will not get. So my suggestion is, until we are doing chapters like this, you should scan your spiritual cord and your, crown chakra and the spiritual energy in your aura before each session and afterwards. And it's nothing to do with me. It is just the fact that we are looking at teachings which are highly, highly spiritual, very refined spiritual teachings. And that is the effect they will have on you. Okay. Integrity or wholeness is based on connectedness with the higher soul. The word whole means to be complete. A strong soul connection regulates your mind and your emotion. The size of the spiritual cord shows the degree of control of the higher soul over the incarnated soul and its vehicles. So I think Master is giving us three different teachings or three interconnected teachings here. Number one, integrity or wholeness. You see, we are, each of us, the person. So the person Hemant Gupta, the person Anulika, the person Jay Kumar, and so on, they are all having two parts. There is the material part, the bodies, the vehicles, or the prakriti, and then there is the energy part, pure energy with consciousness part, which is the soul, or what in the Indian system is called Purusha. Now, if you disconnect your soul yourself from the soul, you the person disregard, ignore, or just don't listen to the soul, then you are missing out on one important aspect of life. You see, the other way around, without the body, the soul still exists. But without the soul, the body has no meaning. Actually, if you remember, in the previous page, there was a sutra, when there is no soul energy, the body dies. So the body cannot live without the soul, but the soul lives on without the body. That is why it is able to reincarnate. Yes? So, in a sense, you can say that the soul is the more important part or the more permanent part of you, the person. Right? So, whole means to be whole or to be integrated means that they are together, nothing is missing. Also, now what this tells us is that each part needs to be fed what it needs. Because we've been talking about the vehicles also developing, and later sutras will talk about that. So the physical body needs good food, what we call sattvic food. The emotional body needs wholesome emotions. The mental body needs spiritual knowledge, or proper knowledge. And of course, the soul needs to develop. And that is why it uses, if we are feeding the vehicles the right kind of food, food, of course, in a larger sense, we are also helping the soul get the right food. Yeah. Okay. Second part, a strong soul connection regulates your mind and your emotions. So, important thing, one of the benefits you will see in spiritual development, you get better control over your lower nature. Because you see, the rule of nature is the higher needs to regulate the lower. When the lower controls the higher, problem. सो जो हायर कॉन्शियसनेस है उसको लोअर कॉन्शियसनेस को कंट्रोल करेंगे तो डिसिप्लिन रहेगा, ऑर्डर रहेगा आपका, जो द पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ, यू विल बी एबल टू लिव अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट. करेक्ट. And third thing, the size of the spiritual cord shows the degree of control of the higher soul over the incarnated soul and its vehicles. Now, this is the beauty of Master Choa's teachings. He's made it now physical and mathematical. How much progress are you making? Scan your spiritual cord, you will know. Okay, you may say, khud ka karunga, I may not be very objective. So that is why Master has suggested, have a spiritual buddy. And what is the requirement of the spiritual buddy? The person should be, of course, interested in your spiritual development, but also should be able to give you objective feedback. No, a person, he or she should not be interested in making you happy, but will give you. Say, yeah, last time I checked, your spiritual cord was 1.23 inches. Now it is 1.31, or it has reduced. So, my buddy, what are you doing? Something like that. So, it's good. Have a spiritual buddy. You help them, they help you, or he or she helps you, you help him or her. And it's good to write it down, because then you can see month to month, or if you don't want to do it month to month, 3 months to 3 months, every quarter you write it down. Spiritual cord, spiritual energy in my aura, the size of my aura itself, size of my chakras, write it down, because then you know that you are really progressing. And that is how you get confidence in the system. You see, we talked about the quality of the development of the soul is reflected in the vehicles. You remember page 11, the first sutra. That is the first one. Now, if you practice Arhatic Yoga, the entire practice of Arhatic Yoga, of course, helps the soul develop, but it also helps the bodies evolve. You see, this is one of the secrets that comes to us from Theosophy and from Master Choa's teachings, that on the earth, the divine plan not only includes spiritual development, but also evolution of matter. ये हमारी जिम्मेवारी है. It is our responsibility. Not only we should evolve, but even matter around us, all the prakriti around us, that must also evolve. Okay, we'll talk about that more in the next session, because there are sutras related to that.